Yeah, it looks sick. They even have icons and stuff for like each character.
Yeah, the cooldowns and stuff. Actually, kind of cool.
Oh, that is actually really cool. Yeah. How do they do that? That's nuts. Actually, I didn't realize you could even do that.
Yeah, I didn't notice that it doesn't actually work for Zen.
Oh,
makes sense.
They're both. I mean, there's first of all, what's the team comp you've guys got?
We are going rush.
Yep. What's the team comp the enemy have got?
Spam.
Yeah, so it's literally rush v spam. Who wins on paper?
On paper, I guess the spam comp, as long as they can keep the rush far away.
Yep, pretty much, right? The spam comp wins on paper, but this is on paper, right? It's not how it's going to go in these games. So, I mean, obviously, as you probably know, I don't want to go through this too much, because the enemy's on low ground, there's always a way for you to get to them quite simply, right? If they all took the high ground, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for you. But there's Blizzard World's easy to just rotate and take like corners and cover. You've got a statue here, you can go up this high ground and just avoid them entirely until you're like right next to them there. The path I just took with the camera. Do you see? So that's absolutely fine. Oh, right, absolutely good. Are you Ido or Ang?
I am Ang.
Oh yeah, Ido. Yeah, nice. That's a pretty good account name, honestly. Okay, let's see what you do here for the start. I think this is going to be quite simple. Again, you don't even need to do anything here. You're going to take this rotation. You don't need to do anything other than just keep people alive.
True.
Which is what you're doing. The only thing, well, okay, I say you don't need to do anything. What should you be doing? I know if you're just rotating like this, what's the one thing you can do or can help your team with, or just do? Can you think of anything?
I guess I could just stick up here.
Nope, I just meant in terms of when you're rotating. I mean, you could just stick up there, by the way. Like, that is something that people do, right? You hide here, pretend you're rotating with them, and if your team go into the back of them, you come out here with a nade, but it only works if your team's rotation is to go into the back of them this way, and then you come main and nade past their shield. You see what I mean? And then they get rushed. So that is a really, really cool and good strategy you can do that takes a lot of confidence to pull off. And it's kind of like you need to be speaking to Chemist with that and kind of having an idea of that's what you want to do. So he kind of is like, oh, okay, I understand. He doesn't need to understand what it's going to be like for the map. You just need to say to Chemist, I'm going to stay up here. I want you to push into the back of them, and then I'm going to take an off angle nade, and when I nade them, I want you to push in. That's what you need to kind of like coordinate with him. Does that make sense? Have you ever tried that before?
A little, kind of, not as in depth as that. Like telling him, just mentioning I'm gonna be on an off angle, kind of thing.
Right?
Like,
yeah, that's fine. Well, the whole point. What's the whole point of you being on an off angle?
To catch him off guard and get a big nade, basically.
Right.
I guess
It's just the nade. That's the only point. The only point is the nade. I mean, you could say it's the sleep as well, but the sleep is a waste, right? Because, well, I mean, the issue with sleep dart, right? The whole point of sleep dart is you want to be sleep darting someone that you're trying to sleep dart. I don't want to see you just randomly fire sleep darts into enemy teams and just hope you get someone, right? That's not how you sleep dart, okay? You want to be trying to sleep dart someone for a specific reason, right? So you can use a sleep dart as well if you're trying to hit the main tank or anything like that, but it's just kind of not needed. And if you get ganked, like if they realize you're on a flank and then they come after you, you need to sleep at that point. See what I mean? Yep. So the whole point is you want to be on an off angle here for the nade, but how does your team combo with a nade? What do they do if you're rush? If they're rush?
I guess just speed in.
Yep, exactly. So you need to call this out, right? They're waiting for your nade. If you're staying back here and you want to do this off-angle nade, it is all waiting on your nade. And then as soon as you throw the nade, you just say to them, guys, go in, right? And they go in as soon as you throw it. Doesn't matter if the nade hits. Doesn't matter if the nade doesn't hit. You have to go in anyway. The amount of times I see teams or Annas where the Anna throws a nade, right? And she's like, and she says like, I'm nading, right? She throws the nade and then it misses because she's scuffed or she's panicking, right? And then the team doesn't go in and they like wait because they're waiting for the Anna to get another nade back. Don't do that. It's such a bad kind of like habit to do, and it makes people hesitant, right? you just have to say, I'm nading, go, 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 as the nade's going out. Doesn't matter if it hits, doesn't matter if it doesn't hit. And then at that point, you just heal like normal, but from main instead. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's the like
if we were to sit there, then we're just playing into their advantage.
Yeah.
Because then my team would be taking the spam.
No, yeah, I get that. But the main that obviously that's how spam works. But even if they were like rush, for example, that's not the point. The point I'm trying to make is if you make a call like I'm nading, go in, that's it. You're not hesitant. You don't say, guys, I missed the nade. Don't even mention you missing the nade. The important thing is if you make a call and you're trying to do a plan, you have to get your team to just commit to it no matter what. That's how any shot caller works, right? And in this scenario, if the game plan is to get a flank nade from you, you have to be the shot caller because your nade is what sets up the fight. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't ever say like, oh, I missed the nade, or guys, wait, or anything like that. You throw the nade, and as the nade's going in, you just say go. If the nade misses completely, it doesn't matter. You go in anyway, right? And you can still win the fight with a missed nade. Then at that point, you can throw a sleep dart or something if they start to run into you or anything like that, or just heal normal, and then it's just like a normal fight. It's like a normal fight as if you've missed the nade, which is just easy to win still. Okay, so that's like a cool thing that you can do here, but the main reason, what I was trying to say when you're rotating, there's two things you can do. One, scout. Yeah. So as you're making a rotation, don't just focus on looking at your teammates and healing them. Looking at your teammates is good, right? Because it allows you to know where they are. And there's another reason why it's good, and I'll get to that. That's the second thing I was going to say. But the other thing is scout, right? What can you scout as you're rotating?
Enemy positions, I guess.
Right. So is there an enemy like Tracer that no one's spotted? Is there an enemy Genji that's jumping up or hiding? Right. Look around, look at the walls, look at the corners. There might be someone hiding. You see what I mean?
Yep.
Right. So that's just scouting, and everyone does that. So that's absolutely fine. Just one thing you can do. And the final thing, which is what you need to be doing here, is you need to learn to be glued to your team, literally glued on top of them. This is okay, this position you're at, especially because you are Anna, right, at the end of the day. But try and learn to actually move with them. It makes you so much more coordinated as a team if you're like literally glued to your team. And you're pretty good so far. Like this is good. See, this is good. This is what I mean. Like this, when you're like literally glued to them. But don't split off too much like this. Just stay like completely glued. Because this is the problem right here. Hold on. Let's go back. It was right there, the problem that I just saw. Watch this.
When I went for that health pack.
No, yeah, well, the health pack slowed you down, and this is the problem. But I'm going to show you what issue it causes. Watch this right here. This is bad. Why is this bad?
Because I'm being split, and I can be easily pulled.
Yeah,
since I have the
you can be pulled. By the way, if you're against a good Hanzo, or you're against, like, because they have a Hanzo, or a good Ashe, right? You'd be dead now. Okay, because you're so split from your team. You cannot cross death zones, which is this line of sight here. You cannot cross that without someone in front of you. So this is bad, right? This is bad positioning. Okay, if you're against an actual good team, you'd be dead on this rotation. Yeah, watch that. That is when you're pulled, headshotted, whatever, right? I know, luckily the enemy team started to rotate immediately, but the point is they use no abilities, right? What move could they have used to instantly kill you as you're rotating? Think about it. What move could have actually told them that you were lacking behind?
I mean, they could Orisa pull, they can rock.
Nope. There's one move that allows them to know that you're lacking behind, and they just line up the shot and kill you instantly.
Hanzo Scout Arrow.
Scout, as in no Sonic, yeah.
Sonic.
Wait, did you say scatter or scout?
I said Scout Arrow, but yeah, Sonic.
Oh, okay. I thought you said scatter. Yeah, that's it. That's it, right? And by the way, that time there would have been a great Hanzo Sonic. He should have used it then on that corner, because that's exactly what I've just said. And obviously, when you guys go inside a room like here, this position here where your team is, this is a great time to Sonic, because he needs to know whether you're coming through this way or rotating this way. Okay. And yeah, a Sonic like right into that corner would have spotted you lagging behind, and he would have just been able to line up a headshot and kill you. So yeah, you need to glue to your team more, definitely, right? Okay. You can't be like rotating that late, because a good team would just kill you. Now what do you do here? Your team's running in. What's your plan?
My plan here was to look for a nade and kind of stick high ground.
Right.
Which I don't think.
But what's the problem with trying to go for a nade here?
Well, they have the two shields, and now they're shielding my direction.
Yep, they have the 2 shields, and also their shields mean you can't heal. So what do you do here? What would you do? Actually, do you want me to just play the video? Also, your hands, mate got destroyed. Let's play it in slow motion. Wait, who did the nade actually get? It got blocked by the shield, so only got Lucio. Yeah, that's a bit of a problem. Why do you think that's a problem? What did you do wrong here? Do you want me to go back? Wait, hold on, can
I change it down to time skip interval? Yeah.
Okay. So what was the problem here? Why was this nade terrible in my eyes?
It's kind of a blind toss.
It's a blind toss, but also you tossed it into the shield. Watch again.
Yeah.
There were literally shields there that you could see, and you still tossed it. Why is that bad? Why is it bad to just toss it at shields?
Because it's kind of pointless.
Yep. So what should you do instead with the nade?
Might as well just hold on to it and use it on either one of my allies who needs it in that moment, or just on one of their, like, when there was a ship
You
goes
had
down,
the first
or
part, right? Yeah. No, that's it. You pretty much know, right? So the whole point of it is to hold on to it until the Orisa shields go down, or right, as you said, you can use it on yourself, right? On one of your allies, I count that as. But there's another thing you can also do. Use it for. What do you think?
Splash that on the wall behind them over the shield.
But you could do that as well, yeah. But the thing I don't like with that is Ananede's AoE is actually so small that if you splash it on the wall behind and they're standing slightly too far forward, it won't even hit anyone. But right now, it would hit all of them, right? Yeah. But they move up to the corner and it wouldn't hit them there, right? What I was thinking is you actually just turn to the right and splash his Baptiste and kill him. Yeah?
True.
You could try that.
I didn't know he was there at the time.
No, true. Who else? What about this Ash?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you can use it offensively as well on people that are split and just 1v1 them, right? Because if someone gets naded, they're going to run back to their team and panic, right? And that's exactly what you want anyway. You want them to either go back to their team or hide and not do damage. So that's always a possibility as well. And you have to kind of line up the nade for that. But yeah, this nade was kind of wasted in my eyes, sadly. Oh, then you knew the Baptiste was there. Yeah, I see. Now, what about this position that you're in here?
It's not that great.
Why is it not that great?
Ash can just about see me.
Yep.
And
so, what you've done, right?
And if anyone takes an off angle, I'm kind of in a horrible spot.
Yeah. So what you've done here is you've just dropped down and just given yourself disadvantages with no advantage. What was going through your mind here? How come this was something you wanted to do?
My original thought here was to stick high ground, but then once I saw like people start taking more damage, especially chemists there, I think I just dropped it just to...
Doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, in your head it might be like, right, you need to be closer to someone in order to like heal them more. That's not how you have to think about it. That's panic, right? That's like that's you panicking in your mind, right? You can even say that like, oh no, I wasn't panicking, but it is. That's just subconscious, right? You wouldn't even notice. Why couldn't you have just done this and just healed them like that, peek in and out with this wall, right? That protects you from the Baptiste, protects you from the Ash every time you go back in. It keeps you high ground, protects you from like any flankers if there were. I know there aren't, right? And it allows you to just keep on healing your team. What about that? And obviously, if you kept the nade, you would have been able to nade here as well. Nade here would have been amazing, by the way. Like this is a perfect time to nade. Look at that. Gets the Orisa, gets 4 fucking team members, and that's like a full heal on Chemist as well. That's why you need to save the nade more if there's shields in the way, unless you're doing the off angle thing, obviously. But you know that, okay? So do you see how now you just put yourself in like a way bigger like disadvantage than you were before? Stay calm. Don't just panic and be like, I need to drop and go closer to my team to heal them. If you're confident with Anna's aiming and you're confident with doing peak shooting, which you need to practice, right? You can just do this and just keep everyone alive and never panic, and then just save the nade and use it in these like scary times. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But yeah, you're now here. Also, by the way, let's say for whatever reason you fell down. Let's say you fell down here. What position should you go if you've fallen down like this?
I guess I should go like back and to the left of the camera.
Well, like here.
No. To the right, my right, and a little back.
So like here.
Yeah.
No, that's wrong, right? If the enemies are here, right, and you've dropped down onto here, the best place to go is in here, and you heal your team like this. You want to be closest to a wall that's like blocking the enemies off as possible. Because the problem is, if you go here, there's still line of sight so the enemies can see you in. Whereas if you go here, the enemies can't see you at all. You can still get dynamited and stuff with like Ash dynamite, but Ash can dynamite anyone anywhere. Don't worry about that. As long as she can't shoot you as well, she can't kill you. Okay, and you can just nade to counteract it. Okay, but yeah, this is a bad spot. You're playing rush, right? Don't think to yourself, you need to always be as far away as possible with rush. You don't always do that. Honestly, the best time you will play, the best like kind of performance you have at Anna with rush is when you play corners like this, where you're right next to your team and you're like actually closer to the enemy team, but with a wall in the way, and you're healing your team from like this area. Right, this is the best performance you can get as rush. Another example would be, let's say your team. Let's pretend it's another scenario. Your team is here, right? The enemy team is here, and like this is spam here. Well, hold on. This is spam here, and your team is here with rush. Where would you want to be? Would you want to be? Let's go back a bit. Where would you want to be? Or where would be a good place to be that's close to your team? And then cover.
Possibly by the crates on the top above Omega.
Here.
Yeah.
So why do you want to be there?
I got the boxes as cover, and no one can really contest me too much. And if really needed, I can drop to Mega.
It's okay, yeah, and I do agree with that logic. There's a problem though, and it's kind of the same problem as if you were holding this high ground and you were healing people down here, right? And I haven't mentioned it yet. And the problem is when you're playing against spam, you don't want to ever have line of sights of enemies. If you're playing against rush, if you're playing against dive, it's fine, right, to be in these high ground, far away spots. If you're against spam, this is the only team comp you don't want to do that. It's actually better against spam to play here, right here. So your team is there, and what happens is you've got the wall in the way protecting you from anyone spamming you, right? And you're right next to your team, just healing them. Does that make sense? So you want to hug a wall closest to your team. That's how you play against spam as Anna, okay? Because the moment you're up here or you're back here and you're trying to play far away, right, you're actually making spam easier to kill you. Why do you think, right? Give me the reason why everyone always says, oh, as an Anna, you need to play far back in the back line. Why is that a thing? People say that and don't know why, what the reason is. They just think, oh, I need to do that. Why do you think that's an actual thing?
I mean, I assume people say that because she has a sniper forehead.
Nope. No. The reason they say that is because if you're against rush, this is the thing to do. And in comp, the most common team, like climbing up to GM, is rush, right? So when you're against rush, this is amazing because you want to be far away and on high ground. You're basically playing like a spam play style, so rush can never rush into you. Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And that makes sense against rush. This is a good thing. And rush is so common. That's why everyone says it. The problem is when you're against spam, this isn't a good thing to do because what happens is you just get sniped, right? You get sniped by Hanzo. And as I was saying before, you know, if you're playing on the high ground in here and you have to go in and out, I mentioned that there's always a possibility that you get sniped when you're doing the strafe peek if you get sonicked or anything like that. So it's actually riskier than just jumping down with your team and playing the closest corner that's like literally like as close to you as possible. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So close to your team as possible, and it's a corner that's like, or a wall. Basically, a wall was a better way to say it. Okay, I want you to start doing that against spam because that's playing on these high ground spots or like far back like this is just going to get you killed, right? And if you play this close, the enemies are never ever going to be even able to get a shot on you, right? And if they do try and like dive you, your team is there to just turn around and hit whoever's diving you. See what I mean?
Yep.
It protects you from divers. Oh, sorry. It protects you from flankers and it protects you from spam. So another example, let's do a test. I'm going to give a position of your team and the enemy, and I want you to tell me where you would hold. Okay? Let's go here. Right, the enemy is spam. Okay, actually, let's start with your team. Your team are here. So you'll rush. And the enemy team are spam. Well, it only really happens when the fight is happening, right? So obviously, if the enemy team were like here, right, your team is going to run in. And if your team runs in, you want to run in with them, right? And then the moment, let's say your team run in, and your team run in to here. Okay, let's say, pretend these two are touching, right? So your team are up here. Where would you hold?
Probably on the wall with the candles on it.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad you know already, right? You know the exact reason already you'd hold then. You know the exact spots basically that like point out. So yeah, you would hold right here because it's the closest wall to the enemy that's to your teammates, and it's a wall protecting you from any spam the enemy are going to be shooting you with. Okay, so that's the lowest chance for you to die against spam. Yep. Let's give you one more. The enemy team are around this area, and your team are pushing through mid with the payload. So your team would get to here if you were Rush, because obviously Rush wants to run into them, right? Where would you hold? This is a bit harder.
I would probably.
It's a trick question almost.
Yeah, I think what I would do is, as my team would rush in, I would probably position myself by that pillar.
What pillar? This one?
Yeah, the like broken one.
It's okay, but you're missing something. What are you missing?
Being closer to my team, I think.
This is still close to your team. What would be here?
Payload, yeah.
So that's one thing you can do, right? But the problem with the payload is if the payload's far away, this doesn't work because then you're just in the line of sight problem again, right? In this example, the payload would work, right? Because you couldn't hold like right here because the enemies are going to be all around here, and you could hold right against this wall. I just think it's too easy for someone to just come around the corner and kill you. So this pillar's okay, but again, you're far away from your team. Do you see the kind of dilemma you had here? This is why it's a hard one. Yeah. So that's why the payload here would be great. If you pull further back though, and let's say you remember you're pushing a payload, that's the whole point, right? And these maps are balanced for payload. Let's say a lot of the time you're going to be hiding behind the payload. If the enemy team was spamming there and your team was rushing into them there, where would you want to hold? Actually, that's a really bad drawing. That's better. Okay, so the enemy team were here, like using this wall, and your team were using the payload for a start and rushing up to them here.
I mean, I probably wouldn't want to use that wall. I would probably end up using the payload because I don't want to use that wall because I'm
exactly
a little bit too close.
Have you noticed something? Have you noticed something? And there's a reason I'm asking you these, right? For this specific point. What's the difference? What is the difference? What's making it tough? Because notice how these last two I just told you are like quite actually tough to figure out where to go. What is making it tough? Do you know?
Guess just less cover, and it's harder to stay out of the enemy LOS.
Nope, there's a specific reason why it's tough that makes it tough. It's because of the game mode, right? It's because it's payload, right? And that means the position is constantly moving, right? And you're constantly having to like pretty much adapt to the position, right? Yes, it's to do with the map as well, but trust me, the payload thing, it becomes tough on a lot of payload maps because what happens is the enemies are constantly either rotating or they stick in one position that's on high ground that your team tends to ignore because your team just wants to push the payload. Do you see what I mean? Right? Not only that, what's the different thing, right? You're on attack. This strategy becomes harder if you're kind of kind of on attack and you're having to push into them from main, if that kind of makes sense. And this is from main. The reason it works on first point is because where did you push into them from? You pushed into them from the back, so it's like you swap sides, right? This is like you are now on defense and they're on attack. Do you see what I mean? That's how Anna gets the biggest advantage. But because the enemies obviously are going to try and kind of push in, the enemies want to go to the payload, and you guys are already there. And what is that? That's defense, right? On defense, this would be automatically like that. Whereas if you guys are on attack and the team are already there, it becomes harder. But there's always a position where both teams meet, right? And this position is the same always, right? And this is why on payload I mentioned it's harder because the position that two teams meet changes all the time depending on where the payload is. So it's those two reasons, okay? So it depends on attack and defense. Easier on defense to set up a position against a wall because the enemies are running into you and you can just hold that position forever. And it changes depending on the game mode because on payload maps, you have to constantly change your position and you're either too close to the enemy or you're too far. But yeah, so on payload, a lot of the time you can just use the payload, right? On payload maps, especially here. Because think about it here. Do you want me to give you another example of why? And this proves that payload is hard, right? let's say your team was the payload was here, your team was here, and the enemy team was up there.
As spam.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, a spam. What can you do as Anna? I mean, there is one thing you can do, and it's funny because this links to what you were saying about the other map. What can you do?
I mean, flank nade.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
see anything
seriously.
I can really do.
No, this is the thing, right? There's two ways to play Anna. There's flanking and doing the flank nade like you were doing on what's the map called? King's Row, right?
Sorry, I'm pretty sure I actually did that on this map, but I don't think I communicated it or something. I don't remember.
It's so
Or someone can
important.
hear it.
What have I told you about at the start about doing a flank position
Yeah,
nade?
make sure it's communicated.
Yep, the nade, and make sure that your team commits no matter if you miss or whatever, right? Anyway, the point is, if this was the current setup, right, what could you do as Anna, really? Nothing. You just have to go behind the payload and push it. That's what I'm saying. Can you notice how payload's a lot harder to find a position that you just stick in and the enemy team just fight? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So this is what it's because it's payload. But yeah, the only thing you can do is pretty much stick on the payload and use that to like heal your team and just push it slowly, right? Or you do the flank and then nade. But even flank nade wouldn't work if they're up there. Why wouldn't it work?
Because I have to get so close to them that I'm probably just going to get punished for it.
No, not even. If you do nade them, what can your team do?
Oh yeah, nothing.
Right, they're rushed. How can they get on the high ground? Do you see what I mean? So you need to wait for them to drop. So flank nade only works if you wait for them to drop, or if they're on low ground, or flank and the sorry, not or. The only other problem with flank nade is that you can get flanked yourself in the middle of the flank nade, or you can get spotted and die. Right? Those are the two problems with flank nading. So it doesn't always work. And if you do the same thing over and over, good enemies will just learn and then just completely counter you. See what I mean? And just kill you. Yep. So yeah, it's much harder on payload finding that like good position against spam, and that's why you usually just use the payload. Okay. Right. Let's keep going through this replay. Let's speed up a bit. I mean, by the way, there you go. You died. Yeah, I was expecting that because you were just so far back. What am I gonna say?
I'm splitting. I'm lagging behind.
Bad. Stop focusing on keeping your team fully healed. No one cares about that, right? Stop doing that. You don't even shoot. Just don't even shoot, right? If you're making a rotation like this, I want you to stop shooting and just focus on moving and looking at the enemies like that in a rotation, sticking to your team. Seriously, like focus on that. Once you get good at that, you can start shooting as well to heal, to keep your team like fully healed. But why can't you just do that when you're inside here? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
When you're making a rotation past like a death line like this, right? You need to stop shooting and just run and be literally glued to behind your Reinhardt. Okay? Yeah, because this is bad. And then you get pulled, you get dynamited, you have to nade, barriers destroyed, you're now low HP. Right? You guys have to wait now. You waste time. You just wasted time, basically. And if they pushed you here, you'd waste abilities too. And you're low. Look how low you are. You have to get the health kit. Okay. Right, let's go with this. So I like the strategy. What do you think I'm going to say, though?
I went too far out.
Actually, let's watch it again. I want to see what actually went wrong. Oh, yeah, way too far out. You'd already... Yeah. Actually, that's not even the problem. What is the problem?
They've scouted me pretty much.
Nope, that's not the reason. This Orisa was turning here already. So what's the problem? Basically, what happened here was the Orisa thought your team was going this way, the way you were going. So already looked that way. And when she saw you, she committed to her shield there, basically. Do you see what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
She didn't realize they'll come in this way because there's no communication. Look at her screen, right? Can she see your team? No. Nope. Let's go back a bit. Just pretend you're this Orisa. Watch how you think the team is coming that way. Look, see, she's already looking this way. Do you think? She thinks the team is coming that way and she's shooting at you. And then she realizes the actual team is that way. So, what could have changed?
I could have waited a bit.
Yes, exactly. Perfect.
Wait till my team engages, then go out.
Yeah. Because what happens if you wait until your team engages?
All focuses on my team.
Yep, and then what happens with shields?
Well. Shields would be pointed towards my team as well.
Yep, they replace the shields there, and then you pop out, you throw a nade as your team's running in, and then splash it on your Reinhardt, whatever. They all get naded, right? The problem is you came out way too early. You can just wait in this little corner here, wait until your team goes in. Remember, you can see them through a wall. Wait until your team comes in, and then poke out. Check if there's a shield first. Don't just throw it like you were doing, right? Where you just jump out and throw, and you hit the shield half of the time. Don't do that. Just peek out, wait for a split second, and then throw it. Okay?
Yep.
Just to scout. But yeah, the nade here. I mean, what was the problem here as well? It's the wall coordination. Yeah. It's the wall coordination as well. But that isn't the Mei's problem. The problem here is the shield's pointed towards you because she now knows you're this way and she's not going to replace her shield, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, she might not even be able to in this. It might just be unlucky. Yeah, I mean, it's on 4-second cooldown. It's kind of unfortunate here as well. But that's because she thought your team was going this way. And by the way, if she thinks your team's going this way and she places the shield, you could always swap round, have your team go that way, and you go that way from the high ground, like I said earlier. Yep. See what I mean? I think that actually would have been a better flank here, where your team waits in here and you stay on this high ground. Your team drops down and go the way you're going, and then you come this way and thing, because her shield is going to be here by default usually. Yeah, or she wants it to, but that's okay because this still works. But yeah, can you see what happened if you had waited with the nade? What would have happened here? Yeah, you would have been able to nade both of them. If you were actually waited and then you'd peeked out like now, this would have been a fat anti, and that's like a double, and then you can sleep the Sigma, Orissa's purple, they run into them, they're dead, right? But you've now slept. Who have you slept?
No one. It missed.
You slept the Orissa. You slept the Orissa. Watch.
Or that.
Let's go back. But what was she? She was gold. Watch. See?
Yeah. Actually, right. Pointless.
That, I mean, yeah, it's a complete waste, right? But I'm not going to say like it's terrible because you hit the Orissa. I mean, that's a good start. But who should you be sleeping? Sigma. Who's the... Yeah. Always sleep Sigma if you can sleep either. Sleeping Orissa is very, very situational. And I don't mean that in the way that it's not good. It's amazing if you land it, but it's very situational in terms of actually being able to land it, and because of that you don't see people go for a sleep on Orissa much. It's just so much easier and earlier to just sleep like the Sigma or another character, because Orissa just has so many ways to block it, right? Shift, shield, whatever. Yeah, so it's just easier to block, to use it on the Sigma, because Sigma actually has to be facing you for half of them. Yeah, but like the ways he blocks it. So yeah, I know it's a bit harder because he's a thinner player model, but you kind of get the idea here. And yeah, now you've wasted both of your moves. This is the problem. And the Hanzo knows you're here, but he dies, right? So the one person you did nade is dead. That kind of shows you how powerful nade is, right? Whoever you nade is dead. But yeah, now at this point, they're backing up to this corner because that's what they're going to do. They're always going to back up. And now you're kind of like right here. So this is why, if you are doing this thing, you go for a nade and you back up into this room, or you go for a nade and back up to this high ground, or you go for that nade and just rotate back to main, right? With your team. Yep. Okay, I know your team won't get healing if you do that method, but I mean, that's probably what you're going to do now. But I mean, your nade and sleep here were really weak, so I think you could have gotten 2 extra kills if you got a good nade and sleep. That's how good nade and sleep are. But I think you win anyway. Who's behind you? Sigma. Okay. What do you think I'm going to say? Yeah. Don't panic your sleeps, okay?
Yeah.
Why do you think you missed this one? If you can tell me what you were thinking when this happened, like what you were actually thinking about, what your plan was. Let's watch it in fast motion. What do you think went wrong, or what do you think made you panic?
Probably because I was assuming he was going for me, so I just yeeted to sleep instead of getting closer to him to get closer to him to make sure that I actually hit it.
Yeah, so that's one thing, but it's a good point you said about you thought he was going for you. If someone's looking at you, it's actually easier to sleep them a lot of the time, right? Because they're only moving on one plane, and that's the kind of x-axis, right? What I mean by that is it changes when you're on high ground. Obviously, if they're on the floor, right, and even if they're not looking at you, what happens is they move to the left a bit and then they move forward a bit, and that kind of changes 2 directions for you to aim. I know at the end of the day, it's still the x-axis only because you're both on the same level. But if they move to the left, it's still a movement for them, but it kind of doesn't change their position. It just makes them smaller. It's too hard to explain this, but what I'm trying to say is,
I get it.
it's easier for someone to hit someone if they're looking at you, because when they strafe, they're just going left or right. And yeah, because of that as well, because he's not looking at you, because you have more time to obviously get closer. Not only that, but you seem to flick your sleep darts, and flicking sleep darts is okay because it's one like bullet, right? And so obviously that's the kind of play style you have, but you need to line it up. It's just so much easier, and you'll hit so many more shots if you just line it up and stop flicking. Look, you would have hit this if you didn't flick, and then you flick. See? Try and get out of the habit of flicking sleep dart. Because I know it's tempting, and that's kind of the aim style that, this is the aim style that it should be, right? You see Annas that flick, on traces and stuff like that. But if there's someone in front of you and you've got time to line it up, just don't flick. Just line it up and fire, okay? And just fire it right in the middle. You don't even have to move your mouse. You can just move your player's body. Does that make sense? To make like small adjustments. But yeah, the flick here made you miss this sleep dart. And at this point, I mean, now he sees you. You've missed the sleep dart. It was good. Standing on that box was nice. Like, I like this play. Although he could have bounced it off this wall and still hit you. But yeah, it made you harder to hit in that one little specific scenario. Although you should be dead here, like, if he just aims. Good nade there as well. Keep you alive. You should be dead. Like, waiting for the death. Waiting for the death. Good. Okay, I don't know why I did that in slow motion.
More enjoyable.
Yeah. Watching him die. Perfect. Right. Okay, so what's the plan here?
My idea here, but then I realized I want to go into a custom game and see, are you not able to get on top of the blue thing as an Ana? Do you need a movement ability to get on top of it?
This?
Yeah.
No? Which way were you going from? Which way were you going from?
I mean, you'll see. I'm coming from...
Okay. I'll show you right now.
You can just watch it, yeah. I swear you were able to do it, but I tried it.
You're doing it from here. You're doing it from here. I don't think you can do it from this side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can't do it from this side.
I remember I tried and I was like, I swear I can get up this. I must be doing something wrong.
245. Hold on. I'll show you right now. Every character can do it, unless they've changed it, but I really doubt that because I've been checking. So, apprentice should be on Blizzard World already. This is where you have to go, and it does make it a bit harder because you're in line of sight of the enemy. But so going from here, you're never going to get up there. You technically have to do this. See, but it's this corner. It's this corner, right? And you slide up it, and then at that point, you can jump up, whatever.
Okay.
See, and then you can do your trick shots. But yeah,
minus 360 sleep.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, you can't do it from down here, which is a problem because, wait, you might. I mean, I'd love to know if you could, but I'm pretty sure I'm like 90% sure you can't.
I'll do a little experimenting, but I don't know if you can.
No, you really can't. No, you absolutely can't. I knew you couldn't because I've experimented it myself. I was just checking if they changed it because they changed the jump height of all characters, and that was like after I experimented it. But yeah, so you can't.
Okay. So yeah,
you have to go that side, and it's a bit riskier. But what can you? How can you make it safer to go when you're going that side? Like, you just tell your team to shield you. Okay.
Yeah, shield, or as they go in, I could do it.
Yeah, exactly. I think I like that one even better as they go in. It was 245, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, you really can't. It's just how the kind of geometry of that environment works. Where's the best place to be here?
Probably behind the signs. So
underneath.
Or,
If there's ever a spam team like spamming you out, like Bastion or anything like that, the way you counter Bastion or any spam team, right, is you just go right underneath them like this, right? Because the only way they shoot you is if they go right to the edge, and if they go right to the edge, they get booped off or shot from underneath or anything like that. Okay, so yeah, do like this. Ed's probably dead here, but I think you make this rotation. Yeah, you'll make the rotation. Wait, what? Who died? Oh, Ed survived. He did an insane roll. Okay. What's the plan here, though? Oh.
Here I want to see if I get a pick there.
Oh, on the Zen.
Yeah, which
You're
I messed
crazy.
up.
Yeah, that's. I mean.
But yeah, if I didn't get up.
Do you think that pick would have kept you alive? Do you think we would have been able to survive in that pick after that pick?
No, because I'm pretty sure the Ash killed me.
Yeah, no, you would have. You just took a terrible rotation, right? This is what you do, right?
Oh, yeah.
You go inside, come here, pick, jump off, go back inside, like that.
Yeah.
See what I mean? For some reason, you drop down this way, and that it's just in the open, that whole thing. You need to go inside. Inside is your... Anything that's inside. This isn't inside, right? It's just underneath. This is inside. This is safe. Okay. So literally, you go here, you pick off the Zen, and you just drop to the left, and you're back inside. That's how you do flank picks like that. Again, you're gonna have to figure out ones. You're gonna have to figure out that for every map. I can't really go through all of.
Just kind of rule of thumb is inside is.
Yeah. Also, your movement is just pretty bad. I'll be honest. You need to watch this movement. It's just all over the place. So yeah, you went inside from the start. Okay, just watch. I'm going to show you how I do this movement, right? So what you do is you come up here, spamming crouch. That's okay. Your path is a bit is okay, to be honest. It's not bad. But this is when it all goes wrong. You move up. Why are you moving up closer to him? Makes no sense, right? Don't move up closer to him to do a nade. You can do it from a distance. Nade's projectile, right? You just aim it. So moving up here is bad. I know, in my eyes, the reason you're doing this is because you want to get close enough to nade both of you. Nading yourself on full health does nothing. Don't do that, right? And if you're trying to get pickoffs, you nade from a distance always, right? So you move up to get this nade. It still doesn't hit you, right? Then you do this sort of movement. You move to the right down like that. Again, makes no sense, really inefficient, right? I guess you're trying to strafe him or something. Not really how it works. You strafe in the same spot, right? And then what do you think I'm going to say? What's really bad? Stop jumping. It's just terrible, right? Really bad. So you've jumped here, so that negates any strafe you can do entirely. Then you end up going to the right here, and the reason you're going to the right is because you're trying to drop off to the right, and then this movement again, another jump, and this movement's just all over the place. It's like you don't know where you want to drop down to. So this is and then here you kind of go like this, like that. It's just yeah, it's so not clean, if that makes sense. Literally, this is how it should look. It should be up here, strafe with the nade shot, and then like that, all smooth. Again, let me kind of show you how to make that smooth, or the easiest way to make that smooth, and make it quick, basically. Okay.
And it's also to have my exit planned more.
Yes, 100%. But also stop jumping. Just stop jumping. Right. So you come up here. You go up here. You see the Zen, like that, and you're in and out. See, all I've done is jumped up here, shot the Zen once with a quick scope, naded him. Maybe you can go up a tiny bit, to here, but naded him, and you're just strafing. You're not going forward and backwards. You're just left and right. You nade him, and as soon as you get shot, you look down and drop. Okay, that drop was a bit. I think I held down after that. You look down and drop down like that, and then you're back inside. All good, right? It's clean. What you did is you were like this. And then you're dead, right? It's just, it takes so long, and it's like a thing. It's like giving the enemy team a target on your head that says come after me, come after me. I'm just jumping around. You've got plenty of time. I'll be here for another 20 seconds, right? It just needs to be in, quick scope, nade, no scope, back out like that. And what I do is I look around like that and look at the ground, because it stops me from getting headshotted if I failed it. So what I'll do is if I've got time for one more shot, I'll do like a jumping quick scope like that, and like drop down and be under here within the millisecond. Yeah, that's how you make it efficient and clean. Okay, you can jump if you're jumping to get the height that you need to shoot over the cover that he's covering in the middle. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I have a purpose for the jump, not just
exactly. Not just jumping because you're trying to not get hit. That's not how it works. Every single person, by the way, in the world, right, jumps in video games to not get hit because it's a natural human a reaction, right? So as you know, if something shocks you as a human, right, you're going to jump, like you kind of jump as like a panic to like get away, right? A good example would be like a cat. If a cat sees a snake, they jump out of the way. If you see a snake, you jump, right? It's a natural human reaction to dodge, right? It just doesn't work, right? And in video games, you have to go against that human reaction and kind of like realize that it makes it worse because you're actually against other humans, right? If you're going in a war zone, right, and you started jumping up and down everywhere, it's just stupid at the end of the day. It's not going to do anything. Also, jumps in these games are like inhuman. You jump like massively, like, well, okay, not as much as like Halo or something, but like, yeah, it just don't jump. It needs to have a very specific purpose and it's very situational. And it's go back here, make the rotation. Rotation's a bit sloppy. Jump a few times, you die. By the way, it's okay to go for this flank. If you die anyway, even if you make it clean and you die by like a lucky headshot, it doesn't matter, right? Just say you were trying it for your team. As long as you tell your team you're going for the nade. There's a problem though. Why was this nade not going to be good? I know if you were going for the Zen, this is great, right? You're going for a pickoff. But if you were doing that flank to nade them, what's the problem that I mentioned earlier? Yeah. They're on what?
They're on the high ground and we're running.
Yeah, so it doesn't do anything. You can't rush into them. You see what I mean? So, but yeah, going for a pick like that, I like that play as long as you're like clean with it.
Yep.
The zooming in sound, what the hell? I mean, this end's thrown, by the way. Don't do this. Don't do what this end does. If your team has died and you're in them behind them,
just go die. Yeah.
Just go, right. This is payload, right? It's not like control points or anything. It's not like King of the Hill, right? If it's payload, you just go die. Like you have to go and die on the payload. If it's like 2CP or something like that, there is some merit to hiding and then going on the point as they push in. But it's payload. It's never ever works on payload. If it's payload, you go in and die. Sadly. It is sad because it makes Overwatch a bit more boring, but that's just what's efficient. What do you think I'm going to say about that sleep dot?
It was pointless.
Yeah, I mean, it is scrim. It's like
my thought here was, if I get it, cool. If I don't, it's fine because I won't need another sleep dart.
Yeah. This is probably the only one where I think I'm not going to flame you for it. Well, I'm not trying to flame you ever, but like I'm not going to like blame you for it. It's not terrible. Okay, you're just going for like, honestly, if you added a 360, I would have preferred it. I would have preferred it. Then it would have been cool.
Next time I'll make sure I do a 360.
Yeah, then it would have been cool, and I'll be like, right, try that again. What's your plan here for your team? Do you remember? I want to try and I wish I kind of like had like a recording of like what you guys were saying in this scenario because you guys are waiting. That means there's a plan.
I do have the VODs. I always record my scrims.
Okay. So do you want to play this part of the video and just tell me what they're saying?
Yes. Just hold on a second.
So it's 3:46 on the attacker timer with 2 points. Oh, hiccups.
Let me see. Okay, we're saying
it's when everyone was up against the wall.
Yeah. Okay, so I ult tracked.
Wait, you ult track?
I do, yeah. I mean, we also had our main support was also away for a while. So we kept having ringers and stuff, so I just started ult tracking.
Also, can I just right, teams don't realize this. Don't think only one person needs to ult track. Everyone can ult track, right? people think it's just on one person. That person does the main bulk, right? But if they forget, or if they don't know, or they literally confuse or anything, everyone can throw in ults and be like, oh, by the way, they definitely have shatter, or like something like that. Okay.
Or like when
you need to help.
If I died for the majority of the fight, or like died early in the fight, and then it's like, all right, what else? And I'm like, I don't know. I was dead.
Yeah, no, is that? But okay, one thing I like to do as well is if you are ult tracking, you should get Ido and ult track together. I'd prefer you both ult tracking together than just you, right?
Yeah.
It might be a way, because then what you do is you're the backup. So you're both ult tracking in your head. Ido says it, and then you say, actually, they have blah blah blah, or like, no shatter, or something like that, or they've used shatter, or it's like ult tracking together. I know it can clutter comms and make it a bit longer, but it's good practice to start off.
Yeah.
Or not to put less pressure.
Now that Idle's back, we can definitely try that out more.
Yeah. But yeah, what else was being said when you were up against that wall, or was it just ult track?
It was pretty much just ult track until we got the Zen.
What was the ult track?
Okay. My ult track. Hold on. I said everything but window. So very. Oh wait. Yeah, I said everything but window.
What? Yeah. Well, they don't have window.
And then after,
but it was actually Dragon, Bongo, and Flux, right?
Dragon, yeah, Tank and Dragon.
Yeah.
But I don't think I saw the Bob nor the Trance, and which I think Ido had also pointed out.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, Chemist said they used the Bob, and then Ido just said they also used Trance.
Yeah. Yeah, ult tracking was hard. I had to ult track, and I could never get it ever. Like, I don't know why. If it was like too much, it was like too much for my brain to handle, or like it just, I don't know. Like, my memory in a fight is just horrendous. Like, good flank
my
nade
favorite.
there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that Chemist died though.
Yeah, it doesn't matter though, because you can stagger them and Chemist can get back. Although no one was on the payload, so this is a bit of an issue, right? That's the problem with a flank nade as well, right? If you do go for a quick flank nade, or you try and push up, right, your payload duty, so your payload is now not moving, right?
So instead of me having been in the fight, I might as well have just naded and backed off.
Pretty much. I agree with that. I think that's better to do. Nade and then just run back to the payload and heal on the way back. Because you lose out on a lot of like payload pushing potential. And what's the biggest benefit? Let's say you were pushing the payload the whole time. The payload would have been about like there. What's the biggest benefit for your team?
Now there's less space in between the two teams, so we can actually rush them.
Yeah, also you got more cover. Also, the closer the payload is to the enemy end, the more they panic or when they're respawning. Yep. So you might be able to get like more pickoffs. It's always better, the extra like distance. Also, one thing that every single team disagrees with, but I'm one of the only people that thinks it's good, right? Tell me this. When people say, right, we need to get people on the payload, how many people do you usually get on the payload? Right, how many people? How many people do you commit to a payload normally? If to just do a little push.
3 about.
You 3, right?
Like after a fight win, like a team fight win.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. Yeah, I'd normally just put 3, or even.
See, that's wrong, right? You would want to only put 1 because everyone else wants to actually push up and get high ground, blah blah blah, and you just have 1 on the payload, right? And 90% of the time that's okay. But there's one scenario where actually having 3 on there is the time it's good, and this is what this is the thing that I disagree like with some other people, like coaches and just some players as well.
Yeah.
When do I so actually don't always put 3 people on a payload. It's a lot of the time you're actually never setting up. You never push up and you never take map control and you never get early scouting if half of the team is on the payload, right? And if half of the team's on the payload as well, the other half get pushed, right? So what you're supposed to do is sit you on the payload because you can still help from a distance, and everyone else like pushes up and gets like a closer kind of, basically as close to the enemy. Especially with rush, by the way, that's better because obviously the closer you are to the enemy, the easier it is to just take a fight and kill them because you're right next to them. And also it means if they use ults, you guys have loads of distance to back up back to the payload, right? Instead of just leaving the payload immediately. So, but when is the one time where it's actually, I think, good to have 3 people on the payload?
I guess
I'd say right. I say when you're 60. Sorry, continue.
I'd say like just as the team fight ends, you could have 3 on point.
No,
And then
again, that's still wrong. Sadly,
but then yeah,
you shouldn't do that because as soon as the team fight ends, your team should already be running up ahead to take map control and basically be ready to basically fight as close as possible. The only time that I think so, right, any pro team that you ask will say never have 3 people on payload. It's pointless, right? And that is sort of right, but there's only one thing, right? I think that having 3 people on payload is good for, and this works against worse teams. It's when
near the end of like third point.
Right. Not even third point. Near the end of any point. Because what happens is, I say about 66%, when you're 66% of the way of the point, right? If you put 3 people on payload, even if you're not going to cap the payload, what happens is it's a psychological game. The enemy teams start to panic because they think they're not going to make it. Because most teams are used to having one person on payload and have these fights kind of planned out in their head and have the timing planned out in their head of when they need to go in. And what happens is when there's 3 people on payload, it goes slightly faster. It fucks up with their internal timing. And then when they realize that, oh shit, the payload's a lot closer than we expected, they panic and they run in and just die and like completely fuck it up. I have had that work so many times. And this is a technique that's literally mind gaming the mind games, right? And like it's mind gaming scrims. It only works in scrims really because, as I said, every team has like an internal timing of how many fights they take on a point, and having that 3 on payload fucks up this timing, right? Internally. The only problem is if you have 3 on payload for the entire point, the enemies expect it. If they just notice that you're just all sitting 3 on payload, they're ready for it. They're like, okay, they're sitting 3 on payload, so we only have 2 fights, right? But these fights we can take a lot like safer because they're playing way further back. Do you see what I mean? They expect it. So what you do is if you only sit 1 person on payload, they're used to the 1 person payload, so they're like, we're going to get 3 fights, and then you just shove 3 people on like towards in the second half, and it just starts completely messing up their timings, and they just panic. So that's when I think that's good. I don't know if you want to tell chemists that as an idea, but yeah, you shouldn't have 3 people on payload all the time because you lose out on map control, you lose out on basically actual good fights with rush, and you don't need it either, right? It doesn't make a big of a difference. You only need the 1 person that has range on there, which is you as Anna. Okay,
yeah, so pretty much just once it's, I guess, like on average, like after the second team fight, basically, so once you push the payload more than about halfway through, you can have 3 on point.
Yeah, and that's when it starts to panic them. But yeah, for example, like here, right? Sorry. Okay, let's go back. Like here. You've won this fight right here. Remember when Chemist died and you all pushed up? Why did you all need to run back to the payload? You don't need to do that. You run back to the payload, and then your team plays like up here, and then when the other team comes out, you like assist them with nade and heals from like the payload, and then they take the fight like right in front of their face, like here. So your team would all be hiding like here. The enemy team come out and you just run into them and kill them. That's how like a pro team would do it. You see what I mean? It's like so early, it's unexpected. Having everyone just sitting on the payload, it's like the enemy team know they have plenty of time to set up, blah, blah, blah. They know how many fights are going to happen. They've got plenty of time for map control. It's just so much weaker. Do you see what I mean? This is like...
Get up and grab a coffee.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, you have loads of time. I mean, this is like really high level team shit, right? And again, this is something you'd need to tell to your whole team because your whole team needs to be on board with this, right?
Yeah.
But that is why pro teams or contenders teams only really sit 1 person on payload ever, because it allows them to basically set up. The issue, how you counter that, right, is you, as the defending team, you see that they only have 1 on payload, so you expect them to be hiding somewhere close, right? And you bait them to run into you, and then you like pull back and basically cut their Ana off from the healing. So the enemy team basically either have to go in and have no Ana healing, or they just stay here and then you go out like another way or something like that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how you counter that if a team does it against you. You have to bait them to come in and kind of split them off from Ana healing and then take it on a 6v5. But if the payload's here, you can still heal and nade. Like I can nade through this doorway. It is more difficult for you, I will tell you that. So having your whole team playing really far up and you're on the payload, you have to learn how to play like that. You have to learn to be good at long range and long range nades, basically. Okay?
Yep. Okay.
That's important for you. But yeah. That is all the time we have for now. Sorry, I was late earlier, but do you have any questions about that? At all, like something I missed or something you wanted to know?
I don't think so, really.
Okay, are you sure?
Nothing comes to mind right away.
That's fine. So Aston as well, are you here?
Yeah.
What I would say is tell like team members maybe after like a scrim or just before a coaching session, just tell them to have like one question in their head that they want to ask for the session.
Yep.
I know like a lot of the time, I end up accidentally answering it, or if it's like obviously the whole point of a session is to go over something.
For sure.
But if they have like one super specific like question, get them to write it down before. They don't have to, but it's a good thing to kind of add to them. Be like, oh guys, by the way, I'll try and write like one question for Cloud before like a session. Then at like the end or the last 10 minutes or something, we can go through this like very specific question or something.
For sure. One thing we're trying to do at the moment is sort of get a brief of what they want the coaching to be on, get the replay code in, and obviously now we'll add the question to it as well, so it makes it easier.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good start. But yeah, having a question ready, because I know when it's like the end, I mean, it's the same with like interviews, right? The end of an interview, they ask you like question, unless you've got them written down, you can't come up with it on the spot. It's impossible, right? Again, if I don't have a question written down, it's like I'm never going to come up with it on the spot. You just go blank, like. Yeah, so it's the same sort of thing. So having one written down that's like super specific, like a specific scenario that's like completely unrelated, is like a good way to kind of like expand your knowledge, and can be interesting as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, and hopefully that was helpful for you. And there's a lot to go through there. Basically, rewatch that. Tell Chemist the certain things. If you've recorded this session, you might want to play this back to him. What I've basically explained, right, about the point thing, and especially with him pushing up while you're doing off-angle nades and stuff like that, the timing stuff, so your team's all on the same page. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. All right. I will see you guys later, and Sunday, right?